All right, here we go. Back with a new video. Just got back from the Keys. Took a whole bunch of photos, and this is probably one of my favorite pictures I've taken. I took a bunch of good ones I like, but this is one I shot. I bracketed it. I do a lot of bracketing. I haven't really done much HDR here, but you can see these are the original three videos, and I've been pictures, and I've been messing around with this photo a lot. And I originally did it in Aurora HDR, a real basic version, and then took that and worked on it in Luminar. And I liked that one. I'll show you that picture first. This is what the final result was after Luminar, and I really liked it at first. And then the more I looked at it, I didn't like how dark it got down here in the seaweed, and I didn't like how dark the tree was. I just didn't feel like the lighting was right on the tree, but I liked the color in the water. So then I took my overexposed image in Luminar from the brackets, which would have been this one, and you can't really recover it that well here, but in Luminar you have so much more. You can pull down highlights so much more. So I did just one in Luminar, and this is what I got, and I kind of liked it. I liked the tree a little bit better, but it still didn't look right. So between the two, I didn't look them. But then I started working on it on an Aurora, just the original raws, and I'm going to go through that process. And I got a version of it I really liked. I'm going to have to start over because I just cleaned up some of my Lightroom and accidentally transferred this folder, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I got to start over, so I figured I'd make a video. So I'm going to go to Aurora 2019, open source files. So I'm going to work on the raws, kind of show you what I did here. So I always do auto alignment, ghost reduction, and chromatic aberration reduction. This tree being backlit, lots of chromatic aberration. And I haven't been using this software too much to do HDRs. I've been basically just using it to merge the photos and tone map them, and then I've been working on them either Lightroom or Luminar, but I decided to give it a go and really liked the way that it came out. So, all right, so here we go. We're in Aurora, and what I'm going to do is 3 layers here, and I'm going to keep it. It's a technique I've been doing, but so there's sort of the original. This is what Aurora gives you. So all I do is I add a little bit of contrast. I pull down my highlights, open my shadows all the way up, and then I come down here and I'll do a pretty decent amount of vibrance. Really bring the colors back, and then a little bit of color contrast. A little bit of HDR clarity, a little bit of smart structure. Maybe a little pull. No, and that's really it. That's all I do on this first layer. I don't go too far. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use luminosity masks. And I'll show you here. I'm going to use a luminosity mask to really soften the background and add a little bit more punch, a little bit more color to it. And then I'm going to use another luminosity mask, but let's just get started. So I wish they would improve luminosity masks. So as you can see, the background's mostly selected. This stuff isn't as selected, but I can't really adjust it too much. I wish I could, I wish I could push this slider further to the right and get it off the tree and stuff a little bit more, but whatever. So I'll turn this off. I'll get rid of the brush. And basically what I'm going to do, what did I do here? So I'm going to pull down my microstructure all the way, pump up the softness, add some image radiance, a little bit of vividness, a little bit of smooth, a little bit of polarizing filter, and I'm going to pull back on these. Basically, I just really want to soften out the whole background. I think I added no glow. And then lets you see into the water a little bit better. And did I add more vibrance here? I might do a little bit more color contrast, a little bit more vibrance just in the background, just to get the background colors to kind of pop. Maybe a magenta. So something like that. And then we'll do the before and the after on this layer. So you can see it just really softened up the background, brought in a little bit more color, made it look a little bit smoother. Definitely cleaned up this. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. I got to denoise it. So we'll zoom in. Let's see, HDR denoise. And I'm going to do a lot of denoise because I really want it to be smooth. There we go. That looks pretty good. Image processing. So that looks good, but you can see we softened everything up here. So the next thing I'm going to do is add one more layer. And same thing, I'm going to do a luminosity mask. This time, I basically want to just isolate the tree in this foreground as much as possible. And once that loads, I'll show you sort of what I do there. So again, you got to turn on the brush to see the layer, and you can go, density. The more you turn it down, it does everything. And so, oh wait, I forgot. I'm like, what is that? Doesn't look right. So invert. There we go. So there. See, turn down the density, and it does there. So it's mostly where I want it, but I do want to get rid of it. So I'll make my brush a little bit bigger. I turn my opacity down to about 70. And I'm just going to erase this out because I don't want this. And I'm going to crop that out, so I don't care. I'm going to do a 1:1 crop on this when I'm finished. And I want this to all stay soft, but I don't want it, I don't want there to be hard lines where you can notice it. And I've already done this, and it looks pretty good. And if it's not, I can always come back in and adjust it. But for sake of the video, we'll keep it pretty quick and simple. And so just leave that foreground and the water kind of alone. Okay. Turn that off. We'll say done. Now, I'm going to do sort of the opposite. I come in here, I'm going to add HDR clarity, structure, microstructure. I'm going to do some small detail boost, large detail boost. And then I come in here and I like on these green leaves to do a little bit of green luminance. Oh gosh, this takes so long to render out. There we go. So it adds a little bit of green luminance. And you can mess with the aqua, or no, I'm sorry, not the aqua. What else do I do? I feel like I'm rushing through this and I'm forgetting things now. If I warm this a little bit, leave it alone. So something kind of like that. It doesn't look exactly how I had it before. I might need to come down here and do a little bit more. There we go. A little bit more color contrast and come back up, turn this layer back on. Get that little bit of pop. And I might even turn my opacity down and just come off some of these fine branches a little bit. So it's not quite so halo-y. There we go. So something like that, I think. And then obviously I'll clean up these sensor spots. But I came into Photoshop, and obviously you can tell by that, I wanted just to get rid of all this stuff along the horizon. And this pier doesn't really make sense. It's kind of distracting. The pier. So I just used a spot healing brush and the clone stamp tool and took it all out. And I think that looks pretty good. My computer screen, I'm moving around because my computer screen is so dirty, I can't tell if there's stuff on the image or if it's just my computer screen, I should probably clean it up. But I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and send it back and then level it out. And I think that's going to be my final image. I quite like that. I think it looks pretty sharp. So I'm putting this together and I'm going through here watching it, and I realize I go from, kind of see here to here. It looks different. What I did not record or tell you is that when I went back into Lightroom from Aurora, all I did was add a little bit of exposure, maybe like a third, and a little bit of contrast. And it was just enough to take it from this little bit darker looking image that I'm scrubbing over here to that lighter final image. So that's it. I just wanted to fill that in real fast before I finish screwing around with it in Lightroom. Let's see, here we go.